Get ready for the Great North Wrestling Podcast, the official podcast of the Hannibal TV, Canada's #1 pro wrestling YouTube channel, with your host, GNW wrestler and the Hannibal TV lead reporter, Devon HANNIBAL Nicholson.
This is Hannibal from thehannibaltv.com, and I have Jon Bravo on the line. He is the controversial filmmaker. He has a big one coming out soon related to steroids and celebrities, and this is interesting to wrestling fans because there's one big wrestling superstar on this list, Roman Reigns. But do you want to start off by telling us about this film you're making?
Yeah, the film itself, I started the research on this film a year ago when the bust first happened. And how it all started was, I had a YouTube channel and I got into filmmaking prior to that. And I put together around a 6-minute to 7-minute short mini documentary on the WFN bust.
Could you just explain what the WFN bust was for anyone that might not be familiar with it?
Sure. WFN bust, basically, Richard Rodriquez owned WFN, which was a pharmaceutical company, a TRT clinic, and it was for anti-aging. But they also, instead of not just prescribing testosterone and HGH, which are legal hormones in the United States to prescribe, they were prescribing things that are not legal to their clients, and they posed as real doctors when none of them really were. And they also said that their labs were FDA approved, and they weren't as well. So what happened was they ended up getting busted after 2 years. The DEA investigated them for over 2 years, and the owner, Richard, also owned, part owner with Mike Rashid, the Iron Addicts gym in Miami. But there's no correlation between the gym and the bust itself. They were completely different entities, but he owned both companies.
And for people that don't know, testosterone replacement therapy, or TRT, that's like legal steroids and growth hormones being prescribed by doctors normally, I guess, right?
Exactly. For people who have low testosterone issues, usually which happens in males, over the age of 30, sometimes, 35 and up. It just depends on the person. And sometimes there's cases where people are in their early 20s where they have low testosterone. So these things can all be checked with your blood levels, and testosterone is administered to them as well as growth hormone for anti-aging purposes.
So for this clinic, I guess they would have been prescribing these testosterones to clients who didn't necessarily need the amounts that they were getting?
Well, they were doing blood work in the beginning with some of their clients. They were required blood work, but then they started not doing that anymore, and they were actually also selling, like I was saying earlier, and if you guys don't know, there's steroids that are not prescribable in this country, and some of them nowhere in the world, like Trenbolone. Trenbolone's not prescribable anywhere in the world, and there are some old steroids that used to be prescribable, like Winstrol and Anavar, in some cases still is, Dianabol, Decadurabolin. These things are not prescribable in this country, and they were prescribing those things to their clients as well.
And you also were a bodybuilder before, I guess, so that's how you're kind of familiar with the various types. Yeah,
how I got into this, I'm 39 years old, but I've always been into bodybuilding since I was 18, 19 years old, and then I got involved in the fitness community, and and I got involved in filmmaking as well, because my background, if you guys want to know, I graduated with a criminal justice degree, and then I was a private investigator for a few years. After I was a private investigator, I decided I didn't want to do that anymore because it wasn't for me. I went into computer software, and I've been a software engineer for the past, I would say, 17 years of my life. And then from there, as a hobby, I got into filmmaking, and then I realized that I have a passion for filmmaking that I never knew I had, even at this age in my life. And I started getting interest from some directors in Hollywood when they started seeing my work, and then it took off from there, and that's how the whole YouTube thing started.
So this company that was busted, you have documents, and you have the actual old laptop of the guy who was running the company. How did you get connected with him?
Okay, so what I was trying to say earlier was when I did that mini doc, he got out of jail on bail. He contacted me on Instagram and he said, "Hey John, I saw the piece you did on the bust, and I was impressed with the way it was done and the information that you put in and the film work that you did in there. I was really impressed by it. I want to know if you want to work with me in the future to add more details to these films you're making. So that's how me and him started a relationship. And then I started talking to him while he was out on bail pretty much every day, 2-3 hours, getting the ins and outs of the entire case. At the time, he didn't trust me 100%. Obviously, you're not going to trust somebody in the beginning. So he wouldn't disclose to me all the clients that were involved. Just slowly he did. And I never knew the magnitude of the case until time went on. Now, fast forward a year later, me and him have a great relationship. I'm the only person he trusts on the outside. He doesn't trust any media outlets or anything because he trusts me fully because we became really close friends. And as a result of that, his laptop, the one that I have in my possession, which I also archived, and my lawyer has a copy of it on hard drive, just in case, anything ever happened to me, God forbid, I have the proper backups and everything. I have his laptop because it was released in a court hearing. And when it was released, I can't say who it was released to. Obviously, it wasn't him, but if you have questions towards that, as I was saying in my post, you could ask either my lawyer or his lawyer. They can handle those questions. I can't legally say that, but I do have his laptop, and it's untouched by him since he's been in prison. So everything that's on that laptop, all the orders, all the phone numbers, all the contacts, and all the text messages are in his computer, and nobody's ever touched them until I turned it on when I got it last week.
So, and his name is Richard Rodriquez. What was his background to be able to open up this wellness center in the first place?
To be honest with you, he started, I believe, he also worked in the porn industry with, I'm not sure what the injection's called, but there's an injection that helps males with erections, and he started doing that as well, and then he ended up into the TRT thing. I'm not sure how he got into it, to be honest with you, but I know that he was in the fitness community, and that's how he got involved in it, but not sure how he ended up starting it. I'm not sure.
That's interesting, because I don't know if you're familiar with Ravishing Rick Rude, but there's rumors out there that he committed suicide after he tried injecting his penis with something. That is something that exists, this injection.
Yeah, it does.
Okay, interesting.
I know Richard was involved, with Ron Jeremy and some of the big people in the porn industry, so I don't know if he took that route from there and got into the testosterone replacement stuff. I'm not sure, but he's always been an entrepreneur. So, entrepreneurs, usually they get involved in different businesses.
So he got into it through that, and I guess because he's based in Miami, there's a lot of celebrities that live in Miami, including, I guess, the Rock's family, and Roman Reigns, I guess, is part of it. But there's also some other celebrities that I guess have been connected to this?
Yes. So as time went on, and he started trusting me more, I started seeing more names that are in the contact database. And there are so many names. There's over 14,000 different clients all over the United States that have placed orders with them. Some celebrities, some older people, some younger kids, from all walks of life. Celebrities, wrestlers, UFC fighters, NBA players. There's all different people who purchase from him. But there's also people who were celebrity trainers who purchased from him large orders for all their clients. So there's pretty much a different type of person that ordered from all different walks of life. And there was even people who are members of Congress, higher up into the government agencies. It's a pretty interesting case, and like I said, it got bigger. As the more I worked on it, the more I investigated everything, the bigger that I saw that it was. And, people think that I targeted Reigns. To be honest with you all, I haven't watched, WWE since it was the WWF. Since the days of $1 Million Man and Virgil was the last time that I even watched the WWF. So they think that I targeted Reigns, and that's not the case at all. The only reason that I'm doing a specific video on Reigns, I did one on Josh, and the one on Mark Wahlberg, was because they denied knowing Richard, and they denied knowing WFN. And my platform, I'm not a rumor site. I am not a gossip site. The only thing I do is report facts. And if somebody's going to come on my platform and make claims, I investigate every single thing that they say before they're allowed to be on my platform. And that goes for Richard. So the reason why I'm focused on Reigns now is because that's the next person. And his case in particular is very interesting in the way that he placed the orders. So out of all the cases that I've done so far, and I believe it's 6 or 7 people, the names I've released, his is the most interesting up until this point because of the way he placed the orders, which you guys will see on the video that I'm releasing here in the next few days.
And why are these guys not in any legal trouble if their names are on the database?
Which I've tried to explain to everyone, including the fitness guys who were the first ones that were released the names. I contact them all individually because, like I said, I was in the fitness industry as far as the YouTube community goes, and they all knew me prior. And I reached out to them all, and I told them, listen, the DEA is not going after any individuals. All they care about is the distributors and people who are selling. They don't care about anyone who's using. So everyone knows, and the DEA even came out and said it, and I believe there was some reports where I think TMZ reached out to the DEA, and the DEA also confirmed that. So I understand, why Reigns denied knowing him, because obviously it would be a penalty in the WWE because it's against the drug policy to do steroids.
Well, testosterone replacement is allowed, actually, but I guess if it's not coming from a real testosterone replacement.
Yes, yes. Yeah, but even though if it was just testosterone, okay, like Josh DeMel, he was just doing testosterone and GH. I don't know a reason why he would have denied that. To me, it didn't make any sense. As far as Reigns goes, he's ordered things that are not just testosterone, so I understand why he denied it. But as I looked into the case more, the orders he placed were prior to suspension, a couple months before a suspension. So it looks like to me right now that the orders he placed were the reason why he was suspended. Because if you remember, WWE did not come out saying what it is he did. I've heard rumors about Adderall. I don't know if that's confirmed from the WWE or not.
And just for people that know, I guess possession of steroids, I've been told in Canada here by a police officer that say you're pulled over and they find steroids in your car, they might not say anything or they might just confiscate the steroids. So one of the reasons why the DEA probably isn't going after everyone that's purchasing them is because the penalties is probably just going to be a fine or something at most.
Exactly. It's not. They're focused. I mean, they got a lot of work to do, and they're focused on the people who sell. But like I said, there's people who placed orders in WFN totaling over $150,000 to $200,000, and one of the names, which I am not sure if Richard's going to disclose or not. Like, I'm not in control of all that. I'm trying to see how I can word this without putting myself under the assumption of anything, but one of the names could be connected to the WWE.
Right, so you're not disclosing anyone who he hasn't given you permission to disclose?
Yes, I don't disclose anything unless it comes directly from him as to permission in order to do that, yes. And according to him, and what I've seen so far, there's 15 wrestlers past and present who are on this list.
So do you think that Reigns maybe could have been off and on steroids for a while and he was just caught, or do you think that he's found a way over the past years to...
From what I've seen, and I haven't finished going through the 2017 orders, okay? Video should be out early next week. I'm doing my best to research this as best I can. From what I see right now, I believe, from what I see, that the test that he failed was a direct result of the steroids that he ordered from Richard prior to that testing. Now, I'm not done with 2017 to say that he ordered afterward. I don't know yet, so that will all be in the video.
Okay, because we do know that some wrestlers who are part-time, as we found out when Lesnar failed his UFC test last year, they're allowed a special deal under their part-time contracts that they're allowed to have.
Yep. And the WWE is a public traded company. If he failed at that time, I believe it was July 2016, if he failed for steroids, they don't release the results of their testing, probably because of the bad press they would receive.
Right.
You know, they've had their issues with steroids use in the past, you know, with the wrestlers using them. So they don't want that press out there, and they're publicly traded companies. So if he did fail for steroids, this is the thing. I don't remember how many days he got suspended. Was it 30 or 60 days? And I haven't looked at the WWE's policy on how many days they get suspended if it was actually steroids. Now, did they cover it up? I don't know. You know, these are all things that everyone has to look into.
But basically, you're saying you're not questioning WWE's policy too much at this point because you believe he was suspended directly from this order.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
I understand.
Yes, I will never make claims unless I've thoroughly researched something. I'm not going to make any claims.
And you've seen other wrestlers' names on these orders. You're just not going to disclose them because they're not denying it, I guess?
Yes. Well, you know what I was trying to explain to people, and I believe Richard explained in the phone call. He also did not target these people for no reason. He's not trying to rat out people. That's not what his goal in this was. He mentioned those names for a particular reason. And he said that their names were mentioned in the court discovery process. And that was his reasoning for disclosing these particular people's names. Usually what that means is the DEA spoke to these individuals.
Okay. But I would guess that he probably wants to talk about it a bit too, because a lot of people, he doesn't want to be painted with the same brush as other drugs. He's not selling like crack cocaine and all this to street people.
Yes.
He's selling drugs that could have beneficial effects to the body if used correctly, I guess.
If it used correctly, you know, that's what the film is actually going to be about. The film itself is not a film, which I started a year ago, and I was actually working with a director, which we parted ways recently, so I'm working on the film alone now, but it was always a film that wasn't meant to expose people. The people's names and having celebrity names helps the film because it helps people relate more to the subject matter itself. And the subject matter really is to help lower and lessen the laws of steroid use in the United States. Because if it's used properly and it's under the guidance of a doctor and the steroids are actually made in FDA approved labs, steroids can actually help a lot of people, especially wrestlers who are over the age of 30 years old, to help them recover. You know, if the proper substances, not all of them, but the proper ones are used properly, they can help, especially wrestlers because of their injuries and everything else they go through daily, you know. So that's, you know, I mean, I grew up watching WWF. You remember how big everybody was, and it probably helped them in that way. I mean, we don't know, obviously some of them didn't do it properly, and that affects you, but if it's done properly, it can help your life. And me, I've been on TRT since I was 34 years old. I'm 39 now, and it's only benefited my life. I mean, at one time I took more than the dosage that the doctor gave me, and it affected my life negatively. And I learned from that, and I realized that the right dosage actually benefits your life, and if you take too much, it's not a good thing. And that's actually what started me into thinking of making this film. And then the WFN bust happened. Richard contacted me, and the whole WFN bust, I started incorporating that into the message of the film, and having all these celebrity names, now people can relate to it more.
And a lot of the wrestlers that have died young, they were also doing a lot of cocaine, speed, and uppers and downers.
That's a big part of it, yeah. Yeah, there's a big part of it is using recreational drugs in the combination of the wrong type of anabolic steroids. You're asking for a cocktail of a lot of bad things to happen.
And I'm reading, actually, according to the LA Times, Reigns was suspended for 30 days in June of 2016.
Yes. So what I have to do research now on is I got to really look at the WWE policy, because I've been so busy doing everything. But I want to see what the WWE's policy for if it wasn't Adderall. And if it was actually these substances and not Adderall, okay, and they suspended him only for 30 days, then, yeah, there could be an issue with the WWE suspension and drug policies.
Okay, interesting. And for Mark Wahlberg, what was your issue with him?
There was no issue with him. The same thing goes. I mean, Richard named those names, and if you saw when I did that first interview where Richard disclosed those names, I didn't know those were the names he was going to disclose. At that point in time, I did not have the evidence in my hands on those particular individuals. In the past, the orders that I had on the bodybuilders, he sent them to me individually. I never had the entire database in my hands. Then when he mentioned those names to me, Reigns, Wahlberg, and DeMel, I got the evidence a week later, and that's when I saw everything that was in there. I didn't know at the time that he even had Mark Wahlberg until he did it live with me on the show.
These guys would have known then 100% that this was not a legitimate clinic when they went to it, or do you think they would have thought it was legitimate?
No, I think a lot of people. No, I think this is. I think people aren't stupid. Okay, people know that these substances, some of them you can't get. In Josh's case, he only ordered testosterone, even though the testosterone that he ordered is not legal. He would have he could have got fooled and not known. So, to the benefit of Josh, he only ordered testosterone, even though the blend wasn't technically legal, and growth hormone. So he could have thought Richard was a legitimate doctor. In other cases, when people order things like Trenbolone, Dianabol, Winstrol, Anavar, they know these things are not legal, so they probably thought, you know what, there's a doctor who's willing to prescribe it to me, I'll take it, even though technically I know it's illegal.
And you've posted some of these orders online, some of the screenshots of the orders, and the reason I guess none of these people could even attempt to sue you is because
it's facts.
Yeah,
it's facts. The way the laws work in the country, okay, you cannot sue anybody if what they're reporting is facts or anything that's reported based upon a fact or that I believe is 100% true, which in this case I believe 110% it's true, because Richard has never lied to me personally about anything since I've met him, as far as the orders go or his customer goes or anything, especially when I got his laptop and everything he told me was in it, and he hasn't touched the laptop since he's been in jail. So in this country, you can't sue anybody and you're protected, and if they try to sue, they're going to end up losing in court because it's factual information. They don't want that to come out. And they'll end up losing in court, and then if they sue me, they end up paying my lawyer fees as well. So they're really not going to sue, because you can't sue, and that should show everybody. I mean, WWE is huge. If this was all fake, don't you think they would have sued Richard, even though he doesn't have anything for them to sue? And they would have tried probably to come after me, even though I'm just reporting facts and news information, which I believe I'm protected anyway, but they would have at least tried to do something.
You would have at least had a legal letter requesting to have the videos removed at the very least.
Exactly.
Because your initial video was posted on all the wrestling news sites, so they definitely were aware of it. So
100%, 100% they're aware of it. So we don't even know what's going behind the scenes, because if you think about it, if they knew, and I believe from what I'm seeing, they know what was in those drug tests, okay? If they know that Reigns, what he really failed for, they know what's going on.
Well, what's the effect of the drug that you're saying is unusual? What benefit would that give him?
Okay, well, I'm not going to go over his entire order right now because I'm saving it for the video, but there are different types of steroids do different things. For example, Trenbolone is the strongest steroid you can ever take, and I believe it is, don't quote me on this, I believe it's 5 times stronger than testosterone. And there's side effects in it, and some of the side effects are dangerous. It's the most dangerous steroid you could take, but it's the most effective in muscle building out of all of the rest.
Okay.
And, usually people use this for recovery purposes, not that particular steroid, but steroids in general, for recovery purposes and to enhance their physiques. I mean, if you're a wrestler, you got to look a certain way. And, naturally the human body can only look a certain way. There are some people who genetically look great, but those are rare people, and for most of the people, just by working out, they're not going to look like a wrestler. I mean, especially back in the 90s and 80s, those guys, you see how they look, Ultimate Warrior, you know how amazing they looked. You don't see guys like that anymore because of this.
And Trenbolone is one of the ones that can be out of your system fairly quickly, right?
It depends on the ester. Each steroid has a different oil that they use, and one is a long-lasting oil, and one is a short-lasting oil. So it depends on which one they used.
Okay, but the short-acting one, from what I've heard, it could be a
Can be in and out of your system pretty quickly. Yes.
Okay. So for people that want to watch some of these videos that you've released, you want to tell us about your YouTube channel and your films?
Yeah, if you just go to YouTube, just type in Jon Bravo, it'll pull me up, and you can see all the videos that are on there. Or just follow me on Instagram at Johnny Bravo TV, JONNY Bravo BRAVO TV.
Excellent.
And they can see on my Instagram, I show behind the scenes stuff of all my filming and stuff like that, and I release news on there too.
Yes, they're very. You can tell you've learned your craft well for filmmaking, because they're very professional videos, which I think is one of the reasons.
Thank you. You know, most people on YouTube do not carry themselves professionally. They don't produce films or any videos that are professional. And for me, everything in my life that I've ever done, either I do it the best or I don't do it at all, and I'll do whatever's required to do it the best. I mean, with filmmaking, once I got into it, I put myself in a room basically 12 hours a day studying and taking a camera and understanding how lenses, different types of lenses give different types of results, and how lighting is a key. You know, camera movement and lighting and the lens, believe it or not, those three things are the key to filmmaking. So when you learn how all those three things work, you could get amazing results, and that's why I became so obsessed with it, and that's why it's my passion now, and that's what I want to do. You know, I want to move on from doing my software work, sitting behind the desk 8 to 10 hours a day, doing software, programming, and it takes over your mind, you know, and it's been 18 years, you get burnt out eventually. So my plan was to move to filmmaking, and this story to me is an amazing story, and I think that it can give a good message to people and maybe help raise awareness and maybe change things.
Excellent. Well, is there anything else you want to say to close this off?
I mean, listen, the last thing I'm going to say is I in my life, you know, I always believe that in telling the truth, you know, and a lot of times I've been seeing so many comments from WWE fans saying this is fake, all this stuff. They don't understand that. One thing is, I don't believe in telling lies. No matter how bad the truth is, it's always better than telling a lie. And that's how I always lived my entire life. And I'm not a perfect person. I've made mistakes, but I've learned from them. So in the cases for these people, except for Reigns, because I understand the ramifications as far as his job goes, you know, I understand why he can't tell the truth. But for other people, I just believe in always telling the truth. You know, lies always end up catching up to you. And my platform is based on the truth. It's not a gossip site. It's not a rumor site. I do my work, and I do the proper research to give everyone the truth and the facts on anything.
Excellent. And one final question I'll ask you, just for any bodybuilders that are listening to this, is as you had a career in bodybuilding, what would be your best advice on achieving a good physique that you could give us?
As far as physique-wise goes, you know, I think that people at a young age, you know, they try to get into steroids use, and I believe that it's the wrong way to go. I think you should stay natural as long as you can until you're at the earliest, the late 20s, early 30s, and because it can actually, when you take steroids at a younger age, it will age you. It'll prematurely age you 10, 15 years. I never touched anything in my younger days. I stayed natural as long as I can, and I believe for 39, I'm in good shape, and I look younger than my age because I started taking them at a later age, which benefits you. It makes you look and feel younger, not the opposite of the younger people. So key is, like I said, genetics is a key part of it, diet is a key part of it, and then not getting to steroids too early because they'll burn you out and it'll prematurely age you. Because to me, the whole point in life is to feel young and look young as long as you possibly can.
Very good. Well, thanks for filling us in on that, and we're going to put all your links in the description for people that want to follow you and watch your videos.
Thank you so much. It's been my pleasure. If you ever want to talk again, you know how to reach me.
That's all for this episode of the Great North Wrestling Podcast. Be sure to visit thehannibaltv.com for Great North Wrestling news, links, and live event information. Subscribe to the Hannibal TV on YouTube and subscribe to the GNW podcast at greatnorthwrestling.podomatic.com for instant downloads of our latest audio content.